Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the 22nd Fiery Embers. We have an amazing guest tonight. It's somebody who's been on both our fireside chat and a Fiery Embers before, and they've told their story on our platform. Just trying to get, there we go. All right, now we're officially live on Instagram as well. This guy needs no introduction. He had one of the top 10 stories on our website last year, from last in gym class to ultra marathons. Just a really cool dude, really good friend. Just got to share some amazing miles with him at the Tahoe 200, which I can't believe that was only like 2 weeks ago, but it's just been a brain foggy, wild adventure, and recovery is something we'll definitely get into. But we're excited to chat about our Tahoe 200 experience. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Casey onto the stage.
Hello, how's it going, Aum?
It's going good, man. How are you doing? Is a question I should be asking.
Good, I'm good. You finished that race a lot faster than me, so the effects may be harder on you, but I definitely feel the brain fog and fatigue, and I'm just I feel like I'm just emerging from a cloud that I've been in for a couple of weeks. So um, it's crazy that it only has been 2 weeks too. So yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
It feels like the last 2 weeks have been like some weird dream sequence or something like that. It feels like the 14 days was have gone by fast, but also not super fast. And I don't even know how to explain like how these last couple weeks have been. Just been like this weird time loop.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. I was just telling you earlier, like every day I get off work and sit down on my couch and wake up a couple hours later. So I've definitely been dozing, trying to catch up on sleep. I think I maybe got 5 hours of sleep throughout that whole race, which I don't know if you can you catch up on sleep? I don't know what the science is behind it, but like, can you actually catch up on it? Or is that just like that I will carry forever?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I if that's the case, then we're in a lot of trouble doing all these
No
races.
doubt.
But
No doubt.
I think 5 was about the amount of sleep that I got during the race too. I think it was couple at the aid stations, a lot of trail naps, that were warranted because of a lot of things I saw out there, which is stuff I wanna dive into. But I think a good place to start is it's really hard to process these things. And, looking back at it now after 14 days, like, do you have any more things that you'd like to say about the experience to kind of start things out?
Yeah, I mean, really, these 200-mile races, I go into it uh, with a lot of anxiety and fear and self-doubt generally. Like, can I actually do this? Was the last time I did it a fluke? Like, am I capable of this? And then you get into it and it's hard. This was the hardest race I've ever done. But then, I think you were the one that taught me the term on the race is day three magic. That day three magic hits and you're like, you feel better. It's like you've worked through maybe the hardest parts of it, and you have this like, I think some of the layers of domestication are stripped off of you, and you feel amazing. And just like, I was overwhelmed with gratitude on day three that I was like capable of doing this, that I was like had the opportunity to do it, and that it was just so magical. You're in the woods and you have these amazing vistas and views constantly. So yeah, it's sort of like you get through the hard parts and you're rewarded beyond words. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree, man. To this day, I don't know if the day three magic thing was just like some placebo effect or something that like one of the veterans told me about, like day three magic, man, metal, and
Yeah.
or if it's like an actual real thing and your body's like getting used to it and recovering. And either way, like I think the fact that we both bought into it was probably the reason why we got the day three magic.
Placebo or not, I'll take it because I felt good on day three, man. And
Me
I had
too.
ups and downs after that, but obviously, like I think the first 2 days were the hardest for me. The elevation kicked my butt really hard, and I mean, nausea was real. By day three, like the Tahoe lung was my biggest complaint, like just breathing all that dust. But I was like, this is cool. I'm losing my voice, but like my head doesn't hurt and I don't feel like I'm going to puke. So it was
Yeah.
positive win.
We have to talk about that first day, man. That was the hardest first day I've ever had in any race like that. So it sounds like you had similar symptoms to me, similar symptoms to our friend Andrew Marwin, and we infamously spent a stretch together, a story that we won't dive into. But I'm excited to hear your perspective about it. But like, so I mean, to give everybody a quick summation, like you start out in this conga line, which was honestly a lot better than people described it. Like I thought we were going to be in a conga line from like miles 0 to 14, but things kind of spread out. But you know, your body's getting used to the altitude. I think it was kind of the hottest day was the first day, and there were some really sketchy things in there, like a waterfall crossing. And
Yeah.
by the time we got to Armstrong Pass, I was feeling like not good, and I was feeling kind of sick, and it was compounding. And I don't think it helped that I ate a veggie wrap that was sitting out in the sun, no, with brown guacamole.
Dude, I ate 3 of those, 4 of them. I was fine. Well, I mean, I didn't feel great, but I was happy to get food in my belly. So I don't know.
Well, I like Casey and I had this plan of like sticking together as long as we could, and I just kind of like Andrew takes off before both of us. He's looking pretty good overall with his friend Marion, who, shout out to her. Her first 200, she finished in 82 hours. Phenomenal.
Crushed it. Yeah.
She was absolute beast mode. But Andrew takes off, and then I kind of leave like I think 10 minutes before you, knowing that I'm gonna have to slow down, but I don't say anything. So you're kind of just like, where'd he go?
Yeah. I looked around. I'm like, those guys are gone.
And I'm like going up this like hill. I think going because it's like a little out and back to like this little junction where a lot of people turned in the wrong direction there, but that was a whole nother thing. I'm going back up the hill, and then I just like see this rock and I'm starting to feel sick, and I like go find like this place where I can just I'm like, what is going on? And then I just like I'm like, oh, it's happening. And then I just go behind a rock, and yeah, I just start puking. And the whole time I don't know if anybody heard me. I think a few of my friends might have heard me, but I was just like puking, but it was kind of early, so I was kind of like type 2, like woo, like wow.
Power puking, man. Yeah. Get it out.
The funniest thing to me is I don't think you saw it, but I saw you coming, and I was starting to like finish up my puke, and I like get out from behind the rock, and I must have looked like I had like puke on my face like a toddler who just ate like a bad meal. And then I was like, hey Casey.
I didn't know where you came from. I didn't see you puke, and all of a sudden you just popped out of the woods and came running up to the trail. And I'm like, oh, I caught up to you. Whoa. So that was cool. Yeah. I'm glad you got, I don't know, sometimes puking feels better. I was worried. So like I was nauseous from that aid station until I got back to that aid station after the Housewife Hill and then coming back. And I was just so like, I am not going to puke. I was like, keep it in. Don't lose
Mhm.
all your nutrients. Like I was already feeling dehydrated. I was like, if I puke, this is going to set me back so far. So I was just like iron fortitude. And I felt like I was holding it down pretty good until Andrew's moment.
Yeah. Oh
That
my
really,
god. I have like exchanged a back and forth with them about that story a million times, and we both think it's now that we've gotten past Andrew's guilt of thinking he puked on my shoe. Like we all think it's like it's the funniest thing ever because
dude.
well, remind me again because we were coming back, right? We
Yeah,
went
we were
to
coming back
Housewife.
from Housewife Hill. I think I had a video around that time, and it was like 10 or 11 at night, and we like stopped and
Dude, that climb was nasty. It
it
just
was.
never ended. I think all three of us were waiting for the first person to say, like, call for a break and be the person to do it. And I was like, let's take a break.
Dude, yeah, I'm surprised it wasn't me because I love sitting down on rocks. But yeah, we just sat down and Andrew just let loose, man. And I was, the dude's an impressively loud vomiter, it turns out. People heard that from far away, and I was like, oh my gosh, it took everything I had to not
Mhm.
puke. Yeah, the first day was hard. It kicked all of our asses, I think, pretty
Yeah.
early. So
Yeah. I think I looked at you and I was like, oh, Oh God, no. Like,
Yeah.
well, one, I was, obviously I was concerned about Andrew, but happy he was getting it out. But man,
Yeah.
like he have never seen anybody. It has to be the environment, right? The altitude, the dry heat. But man, I've never seen anyone go from 0 to 100 like that. And it was funny because 10, 15 minutes before, I swear we were having a conversation, you and me, about how that dude just took down a bunch of calories at the last aid station. I was mad jealous of it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think the altitude plays a big role in it, and I think just being exposed to the sun all day,
Oh
it's
man, yeah.
yeah, but he powered on through that section after that. He just kept on trucking, so it was impressive to see. Um, and we got to that next aid station, dude, and I fell asleep around that campfire for like an hour and woke up, and I thought everyone was gone, and was like, oh, and just kind of like I was like, I got to get to lower altitude. I got to get back to Heavenly where it's like 8,000 feet, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I didn't, because like I remember being at that aid station. And I wanted to just get out of there in like 20 minutes for that same reason and to just stay on top of things. And I already wasn't feeling good, so I was gonna just try to walk and hope that I would feel better when the sun came up. And I ended up feeling pretty good and started running again. But I just remember last conversation I remember having with you and Andrew was Andrew said, like, just leave us behind, like go run your
Yeah,
race. And I think
totally.
you said something similar, and I was like, no.
Yeah. Well, I was impressed, man. You were ahead of schedule at every aid station to that point, and you kept like gaining time. You'd get to an aid station, be like, oh, I'm supposed to be leaving here 30 minutes later than now, and you were out. I was like, dude, your ambition is way more impressive than my skills right now. So I was happy to see you kept on trucking. I think we passed when you were coming back the other direction at
Tahoe
one
City,
point.
yeah. I was so happy to see you because I hadn't seen you and Andrew in almost like a day and a half, I think, at that point.
Yeah, yeah,
I
dude, you
saw
were
you, and then I saw Andrew an hour behind you with this pacer.
yeah, yeah. I mean, he and I crossed paths a few times at aid stations, and every time I saw him, I was like, "Oh, this is it." But then I'd see him at another aid station. He just kept on going, so it was awesome to see, man. And honestly, once I got down from that elevation, I think below 8,000 feet is the magic number for me because I felt better once I got back to Heavenly, and my wife met me there and let me sleep in the car for like another half hour, and it was nice. Heavenly was a good aid station because it was like a resort, you know.
So good. Did you have any other aid stations that really hit the spot for you, or that you would consider like some of your favorites?
uh, you know, um, I'm trying to think of what it was called. It was the one that Dirt Diva ran and Jess ran.
Oh,
Had
Spooner,
yes,
the Alice in Wonderland aid
yeah,
station.
they had a theme. I love a themed aid station. I'm a sucker for a themed aid station. That was the first aid station we hit where they had pizzas too. Um, they had like pita bread pizzas they were making. So I mean, if you want to win the best aid station award with my vote, have pizza. So Tahoe City had pizza. Spooner had pizza. That does it for me.
What
Um,
were what were you throwing on your pizza? What did you have?
oh, everything, man. I had them putting like bacon and just pretty much anything they had. Like bacon and ham and cheese and tomato sauce and spinach too on every one of them, which was nice. Um,
So, funny thing for me is I couldn't risk cheese during the race, so I tried having both the vegan cheese at Tahoe City. It didn't melt because it was like a craft cheese.
yeah,
And I just remember my crew, my girlfriend, everybody just being. They still tell stories about it. It was like a basically a cheeseless pizza. It was like saucy bread with like
yeah,
olives and pineapple on it. And I just remember like because they didn't have like pizza cutters or whatever at
right.
Tahoe City, so it was just like folded and like eat it with my hands and everything. And I just remember sitting there like my dirty hands, like dirt under my nails and like dirt on my shins, and now I have like pizza sauce on my legs, and I'm just like eating this thing and like
Yeah,
starting to
dude.
come back to life. But
That technically a taco if you're just like folding it in half. I mean, I don't know. The food at those things is great though. They had good burgers. They had good. I thought the vegan cheese was good. I had that in those vegan wraps the first day, and I was surprised. I'm not normally a vegan cheese fan. I like a lot of vegan food, but vegan cheese can be a bit iffy. But it was good, man. It was good. They nailed it. I thought. the other aid station, which was also a risky move if dairy is an issue for you, was the root beer floats that they
Oh
had.
my god, Village Green
Village
with
Green.
Aaron, my friend Aaron Fletcher.
Oh, was he the one that ran that aid station?
Yeah, he's the captain.
I gave him a hard time because they didn't have those Lorna Doone shortbread cookies there. He was like, "What's a Lorna Doone?" And I was like, "Dude, you've never heard of a Lorna Doone?" Um, but then he got salty that they didn't give him Lorna Doones with his aid station food. And I was like, yeah, man, those are like, that's what they like give you when you have a baby in the hospital, or Lorna Doone cookies. They go down so easy, and those are vegan too. Um, so anyway, yeah, I like that aid station. They were good. They did a mandatory gear check on us. Did you have to do that?
Oh no, no, that never happened to us. I didn't know you had to do a mandatory gear check.
I think you guys were faster because us slow folks, they were like, oh, there's a cold front coming in, and you're gonna go over that Snow
Ooh.
Valley Peak in the middle of the night, and it's gonna be windy and in like the 20s. So they made sure we had all our mandatory gear, and I'm glad they did because I wore everything I had.
Oh, did you go over Snow Valley at night?
Yeah, at
Oh
like
my
2 in the
goodness.
morning, I went over that thing, and it was cool because you could see Reno way off in the distance, but also it was cold. It was super cold and a little windy.
That's
But
funny because my pacer and I were talking about that when we went over during the hottest part of the day, and I got up to the top of Snow Valley, and I was like, "Oh my god, I can't breathe. I need to take a 15-minute nap. It's so hot." And then I got up and we're shuffling down, and I'm like, "Geez, like I can't imagine doing this thing at night, but I can't imagine the view they're getting too." And I
yeah,
didn't know you did it at night, dude. That's crazy.
I went over that both times in the middle of the night, it seemed. The views were really cool, but there were some pretty big snowfields up there to
Yeah,
navigate.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, that was an experience. You kind of go through like an abandoned campground up there too at some spot, and
Oh yeah,
yeah, which
yeah.
kind of eerie at night, but cool. I mean, I think it just hadn't opened for the season, and they got all these like bear and mountain lion territory signs, and you're like, it's always weird being in a campground that's like not open in the middle of the night, right?
It's creepy.
Yeah, it's
That
got.
that re Speaking of creepy, did you have any hallucinations out there?
I did. I lost touch with reality when I left Tahoe City and started coming back, and I had a pacer with me. This guy Doug Baldwin, he's awesome. He saved my butt. Um, Yeah, I started seeing the trail being paved with like Wegmans bags. I don't even know what a Wegmans is. Apparently, it's like a grocery store on the East Coast, which I've never been to. And I was like, dude, there's Wegmans bags all over the trail. And like, I was spewing nonsense, and my vision was blurry because I don't know if you have this issue, but like your headlamp focuses on a spot in the ground in front of you for hours.
Mhm, mhm.
Eventually, that just becomes like this blurry ball of like, what am I even looking at? And yeah, so I had to sit down on a rock, and I kind of like came to, and we sort of started walking again. I was like, dude, there's a person over there. And my pacer was like, that's not a person. That's like a massive drop off that goes like 2,000 feet down to a river. And I'm like, no, I see a light and it looks like a person. And he's like, it could be a person, but they're probably in like a boat 1,000 feet down that cliff. And I'm like, oh. And so he brought me back to reality pretty well. And then we ran into this woman, Mindy, who was also kind of losing her marbles. She was trying to drink
Oh, Mindy, was it Mindy Gale? I
Hyatt.
think orange hat. Was it the Mindy we were with like early on?
I don't know if it's the same one. Her name was Mindy Hyatt on her bib. She was
Oh,
super.
yeah, yeah, that's the one. I think Hyde is her maiden name.
Yeah, I think she just got married.
Yeah. Oh, it's cool that you guys crossed paths again. I love Mindy.
Yeah, she was super cool, and we kind of hung out. She was telling me how she lost her mind at the same time I did, so it worked out really good. And we shared some stories, and
Trauma bonding.
yeah, I think we spent most of the rest of that evening, kind of the three of us, and it was interesting though, because like I remember feeling like I have lost complete sense of reality. I'm like losing my mind. I sat down on a rock and like slept for 20 minutes, and then like told my pacer my whole life story. So
Mm,
that brought me back. But yeah, that was interesting. And I thought I'd been sleeping good up until that point. But I think that like you almost like get in this hypnotic daze at night where you're just like, what's going on? Where am I? Who is this?
yeah.
um, yeah.
Hallucinations are crazy. It's like I always tell people it's like when the dream state meets reality. And I think it's funny enough, the first one I had was during the day. I thought I mean, I got an hour of sleep at Heavenly, and I trucked on, I was on that section from Heavenly to whatever was after that. I think Spooner might have been.
Yeah.
And I saw it was a crossing sign or whatever, and it turned into a stegosaurus that was
Oh,
like the size of a bear, and it just started like walking and
dude.
moving. It was like a hyper realistic stegosaurus too, and I was like, nobody was around, but I remember saying, "I see a stegosaurus," and I told like my team about it, and they were like, "Oh no."
Yeah, when you start talking to your hallucinations, that's when you know it's real. You're like, "I see you. I see you." It's yeah, I saw a few other things, like, a lot of times tree stumps end up looking like people to me, you know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
And so I saw a lot of tree stump peoples, but for some reason, whenever I, like, hallucinate and see a tree stump person, I'm like, "I know that's just a tree stump," but it really, like, really convincingly looks like a person, and you almost have to, like, step off the trail and check it out and sorta, like, confirm that it's not a
Did you also see faces in all of them, like sad faces, happy faces?
I didn't really see any faces in this one. In Moab, I saw a lot of faces though,
Ooh,
which can be creepy and scary, really.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Um, I think my sleep was better this time around, this 200. So,
mine too, yeah,
yeah. I was
yeah.
impressed by your plan, the fact that you had a plan. I kinda went into it without much of a plan, and then you started telling me your plan the first couple miles we were sharing together, and I was like, "Oh, man, you have a plan?" It was a
Man,
good plan, so
it felt like I was unhinging from the plan a few times, and I think I just had to be patient with myself, and I'm grateful I had good pacers, and I really had to push at the end to make it by 11 PM, and just, like, I ran my absolute butt off at the end and just left nothing out there, but
yeah.
man, it was at first, I was like, 86 hours, my goal was 85, and then I was like,
What's an
"Yeah,
hour?
but I got 208 miles on my watch."
Yeah, yeah. No, that was impressive. When you said you had to like be home by Tuesday, I was like, dude, you are ambitious. Like, good for you. I was like, I don't think that's not happening for me. I came in Tuesday afternoon at like 1:30 or 2 or something. But dude, what blew my mind, that last 4 miles after I crossed the highway and you're kind of like at Heavenly and just like doing the Heavenly trails, I
Mhm.
ran that. I was like, I passed like 5 people coming into that, finish line. I was surprised that I could even move that well, but I was like, "I just wanna get this thing done and see my wife and kids."
I have to ask, what did that look like during the day? Because at nighttime, I was like, "They just keep taking us farther and farther away from Heavenly."
It
Like,
really felt that way because, like, I got across the highway and I called my wife and was like, "Hey, I think I'm gonna be there in, like, 30 minutes." And
mm,
it wasn't 30 minutes, it was more like 45, but I was running it. I was like, I was like, "I got 3 or 4 more miles of running in me." So I was probably it felt like I was running really fast, but it was probably like 13-minute miles. But, it felt fast, okay? And I passed a bunch of people, and I kind of felt like a dick passing all these people because 'cause they'd all passed me earlier in the day, and I'm like, "Oh, now I'm running past you." But I was
dude,
just
you had the nitrous boost, and,
yeah,
honestly, I saw people coming into the finish the next day because I got back to the, finish line around 3 o'clock after I came back to life,
yeah,
and, I saw this one guy who just, like, ran past this other guy, like, on the last, like, turn into Heavenly,
yeah,
and I just remember being, like, narrating that guy's life story. He must have been like, "I might be, like, 5th to last or whatever, but I could be faster than you."
yeah, yeah, you kinda just yeah, it feels good to finish it. I mean, there's sort of that last day sort of, like, somber vibe of, like, this is over
Oh, yeah.
with, and,
Yeah.
like, I don't get to be out here anymore, but it's also balanced with, like, a shower is gonna feel really good and some,
Oh
like,
my god,
real
yeah.
food and seeing the family.
What
Dude, I
was
got
your what was it like for you being at that finish, and what was your post-race, activities and meal?
yeah, so the finish line was amazing. My wife showed up with 50% of my children, which was cool. The other half weren't there, but my mother-in-law was there, and so it was just amazing seeing them. It felt so good. Um, I went over to pick the buckle, and it was kind of overwhelming in the moment, so I picked the mystery buckle. I was just like, I'll just take the mystery buckle, and it was cool. It was like this bright yellow buckle with a bear on it, and so
Yeah, I saw you wearing that with your medals on yours.
yeah.
I got
I
mine
like
right here
wearing it
still.
too. Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, my girlfriend chose that one because apparently we walked over a lot of those leaves while we were pacing together, and it
Is that
was
an
pretty
aspen
close for.
leaf?
What?
Is it an aspen?
I think they might be aspen leaves. Yeah, I know that's an actual leaf in there because I know that's a Baikawi thing to take
Yeah,
actual leaves and epoxy them and stuff and put them in there.
I have an aspen leaf one from Moab. I like the aspens. They make a fine belt buckle. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, it was a good experience, man. Finishing the race felt good. They had pizza for me, which was good. Um, and then, I went home and my mother-in-law had made like lobster mac and cheese, which I'm a huge fan of. And I was like, okay, I'm going to take a 30, I was like still in race mode. I was like, I'm going to take a 30-minute nap and then I'll be up for dinner with the family. And then I woke up and it was the next day.
Oh my god.
I just went out. My wife was like, nope, let him sleep. So I slept for like 15 hours, woke up, and then had a huge thing of lobster mac and cheese for breakfast. Um,
That sounds amazing,
I
dude.
was like, the great breakfast food. I'm all about it. So
I think I finished at 11. I was at the finish line for an hour with the pizza, got back to the Airbnb and showered and was asleep by 1 and then woke up at like 6 the next morning because I was starving
yeah,
and
that's
went
what
to the
wakes you
finish
up.
line.
Hunger. Isn't that funny?
It was hunger. Yeah, I woke up, we went to get good breakfast. I think we had donuts that day too, and because I know I'd been talking about donuts the whole time and got
Yeah.
my donuts and yeah, and then pizza at night, so, I mean, it was perfect, but
Yeah.
man,
That's always
before we get off the show, we have to mention bears because that's really I want to say elephant in the room, but there are no elephants in Tahoe.
bear in the room.
Me and Andrew, it was two things. Me and Andrew ran into a bear, in the meadow. Really nice fellow. Seemed like he just had a honey club or somewhere to be because
Yeah,
just
he was just
ran
book.
across the trail, right?
Yeah, he kind of he was like 20 or 30 feet away from us, just charged past us. He seemed scared.
He was a big boy though, wasn't he?
Was. I don't think he was scared of us though. I think he was scared of Michael McKnight and
Yeah.
Mika. Yeah, because those two came charging after, like they were coming back, and they came charging towards us. And
Mika
then
was a bat
there,
out of hell.
oh, she was cruising, man, like head down, head in the game, just getting it done.
I
Um,
remember you telling Mike, like, what you said something to Mike. You were like, "There's a bear down there." He was like, "Cool."
yeah, I was like, dude, there was a bear right there, and he's just cool. Kept on trucking, dude. Michael McKnight, what the Dark McKnight? That guy's
The
he's
Dark McKnight. Did
yeah.
you hear about the bear that tried to take a drop bag at Village Green?
I did. I hope it tasted off with pine cones or something, man. That race, the first time I was out at Tahoe, I volunteered in 2019, and a bear came out of the women's bathroom when I showed up to volunteer one day. The bears there are crazy, man. And it was like, it's funny. I was super scared of bears leading into it, but then like once you're out there, you're just like, oh, there might be a bear. I mean, I get a little freaked out by them at night, but like, yeah, we encountered that one. That was the only one I saw. I'm sure a lot more bears saw me than I saw.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm sure I was being watched more than I was watching.
Yeah.
My Instagram algorithm has been showing me bears since the race finished. And I just got a video yesterday of a bear in a laundromat in South Tahoe,
Oh,
just
dude.
standing there.
Yeah, they're
And
bears.
there was like trash cans and stuff knocked over. You could tell the people that were in there just ran away.
Oh yeah, dude.
He's-
Uh, my wife showed me Cocaine Bear like 2 days before that. So that kind of had me freaked out because that movie's a little gory, man. It's like,
that is a gory movie.
yeah,
The real cocaine bear. I mean, I love the dramatization of like a bear on cocaine and like
right.
how funny it is like film fare. But I think the actual cocaine bear just had cocaine and died.
Yeah, I think its heart probably gave out. It probably was like, oh, I've made a huge mistake eating all of this white powder, and then it died. But yeah, the dramatized version, much funnier. Um,
Yeah,
don't do
for
bears
sure.
cocaine, people. It's not cool.
Yeah,
Don't do bears.
don't
Just
do
don't.
drugs. Don't do drugs. Do hallucinations at trail races. You'll get the same kind of high, but
I think
it's an
it's
earned
better.
high.
I've actually told people the 200-mile hallucinations paired with the transformation it gives you is like it's better than a heroic dose of mushrooms, in my opinion.
Oh,
It's
dude,
more authentic. So,
it's
um,
that delayed gratification.
Yeah, you got to really work for it and
Yeah.
for a day, and then you get into that sweet spot. Um,
And it's probably a good place to end it on a don't do drugs. No,
don't do drugs. Do 200 milers.
don't do drugs. Do 200 miles. Take it from two people who are obviously not brain foggy and on a high.
Right. You can recover from this though, but this is a pretty solid addiction.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for having me, I appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Appreciate you coming on the show. I feel like there's a lot we could talk about with this, but that was a good time. And thanks for coming on the show, man. And for those of you guys who haven't read Casey's story, we'll put the link up again, I'm sure, pretty soon. But it's called From Last in Gym Class to Ultra Marathons. And uh, be sure to check it out. And this will be on podcast in a week from now. And yeah, join us for our fireside chat tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific time. There's something for you every day on the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network. Thanks for being on, Casey.